This story will cover from then to now and next, all about change, how to turn losers into winners. My friends were Samburus in a changing world, from traditional dress to football shirts. Familiar people, a familiar place. In the semi-desert of northern Kenya. A busy town, often dangerous down here. Once there were lots of dogs in Isiolo, part of a lively community. But then the dogs started to disappear. Not traffic accidents, not caused by Chinese motorbikes, but by the Chinese, so it is said, for food. Chinese aid is appearing in many parts of Africa. Kenya's capital, Nairobi, has a major traffic problem, like so many of the world's cities. The Chinese, with their characteristic folding hats against the tropical sun, bring expertise and manpower under very favourable terms. Working with Africans, it seems the Chinese are looking to the future to ensure enough resources for their huge populations back home. Meanwhile, back in Isiolo, now all but devoid of dogs, the Chinese have also been involved in a major project building another road to the remote north of Kenya and the border with Ethiopia via a town called Marsabit. 30 miles to the north of Isiolo is Archer's Post, next to the Iwaso Nero River. The old road bridge over the silt-laden river is a safer crossing for the flocks, plus dogs. Those that have not been eaten, that is. Depending on your culture and taste, there is food out there in the bush. Anyone for baboon? Antelope might be preferred. This new road, so straight and even, attracts wildlife of all sorts, sometimes dangerously so. It's also dangerous in another way, as we'll see. More of a traffic hazard than grumpy camels. The road is built in sections, bringing both tourists and Chinese workers. The tourists want to admire the elephants. The Chinese may have other intentions, which is not good news for the elephants. However you travel, it's some 200 miles to the south that the Chinese connection reappears. Welcome to Kongoni, home to a few dogs and well-named superb starlings. This friendly dog's days may be numbered. His way home with his friend takes him past a new building in town. Apparently shipped in complete from China, this place houses Chinese convicts who may well never be sent back to China, but released in Kenya. At least that's the rumour. Complete with watchtowers and serious fencing and guards, the inmates are taken out from this prefabricated prison and brought back every day. This is a part of Kenya bursting with geothermal energy, and Kengen employs a large workforce. This has been increased by more road building. The drilling sites are operated by the Chinese, and not the convicted ones. Geothermal energy, steam from far underground, is so-called green energy, and the Chinese are helping Kenya with this. But is there a hidden cost? Hell's Gate National Park is now home to one of the noisy drilling sites. It's one of the few parks in Kenya where you can get a feel for the real Africa by cycling or walking safely. Hell's Gate is famous for its nesting cliff of vultures, one of the most important colonies in Kenya. Whether they will adjust to this progress remains to be seen. They've got big tools for the job. Fortunately for the giraffes, there is a game corridor and nature reserve nearby. And there is also a good tarmac road. This could prove to be an attractive place to do a bit of poaching. Around Osirian, a big flower farm, the dogs had better watch out. For some, they could be more tasty than the sheep, so valued by the Maasai. And bad news, a rhino was killed for its horn in the nature reserve not long ago. We're heading back north towards Isiolo, so lacking in dogs. Near Mount Kenya, another wildlife sanctuary, Old Pejeta, is under pressure, the same pressure. This is what the poachers are after, their horns, allegedly worth their weight in gold. At Marani, it's a sanctuary within a sanctuary. These are northern white or wide-shaped lips rhinos. And only in captivity. Their horns have been removed to remove the fatal attraction. It's believed in China to have medicinal properties. Unfounded. It's made of keratin, like our fingernails. Education is a key to conservation in the future, not only in Kenya, but especially in China, whose traditional and mistaken beliefs threaten the very existence of all rhinos on the planet. This is a black rhino with its pointed lip. It's urgent. It's war on the poachers. Bloodhounds, tracker dogs, attack dogs. Is this revenge of the dogs taken against their killers? Poachers may be shot. Such is the demand for rhino horn and ivory, they'll risk their lives, while someone far away makes a lot of money. The message is clear. If the fight fails and the rhinos and elephants disappear, even from well-protected sanctuaries like Old Pejeta, there is a future problem for future generations. Tourism, a massive earner for Kenya, famous for the Masai Mara. But other, more remote parts of the country, like Shaba, try to attract visitors. In this case, only a few, including part of the road planning team as it moves on north from Isiolo towards Marsabit. Is this how these beautiful lodges will become when the big game has gone, eaten or smuggled abroad by uncaring customers who perhaps don't even know ivory comes from elephants all the way from Kenya to China? The only people here will be the staff, whose jobs indirectly depend on the wildlife. The only sound will be the sweeping of brooms and the pretty streams around this major investment. At nearby Samburu Lodge, there are several lodges and more wildlife than at Shaba. It could be dinner time. Wild animals can be very dangerous. Jousting elephants may result in an angry loser. In this case, the vehicle took it on the bonnet, a close shave.
This is actually a mobile collar. So this
Gilbert can follow individual elephants with satellite collars.
There's gadgets. It has the SIM card of Safaricom. This is where they can just kill an elephant for Ivory purpose. We were actually trying to support.
There's Isiolo, town of the disappearing dogs.
So actually, when you look at this map, this is Samburu
And Samburu.
National Reserve.
And Wendy's around.
This is Samburu. This actually.
So Wendy can be pinpointed from this clever camp run by Elephant Watch and save the elephants. They may know where Wendy is, but is she safe? As with the rhino battle, it's a dangerous game.
Sometimes they are so clever and sometimes they destroy the collar.
Poachers may shoot the vital collars when they realise what they can reveal. Not a giraffe, but a giraffe antelope, called a gerenok. Rhinos, elephants and giraffes are among the famous megafauna of Kenya, but there's a lot more small game to see. However, no one will come to see it if and when tourism collapses. They won't be back. But they will return if the elephants and the rhinos or parts of them have not been robbed and shipped to China, those road builders and, they say, dog eaters. Tracker dogs, armed guards, satellite collars, even drones are being used. And here's an elephant tunnel, being checked for safe passage between two areas of forest. It's part of a vital corridor for migrating elephants. But they will only continue to do this if they receive more help. And that means from China and with rhinos Vietnam. In fact, Asia is draining Africa of its wildlife in exchange for smart new roads and natural resources. Until that increasing appetite is reduced enormously, the end will be in sight. The new road from Isiolo is now heading for Marsabit. Mount Marsabit, a green oasis in the desert, with Lake Paradise, part of a protected area.
Quickly, Osa takes her gun from the porter as Martin, lost in the scene before him, grinds on. Nearer and nearer comes the herd. Osa points her gun in the air to fire over the elephants, hoping against hope that a shot will be heard over the din. She fires again and the explosion is all but lost. But they've heard it. The charge suddenly turns off as the elephants drive on away from the rapidly approaching flames.
Some of the first wildlife films were made here by Martin and Osa Johnson.
In those days, the herds, those early days.
And it was home to the mighty Ahmed, guarded day and night until he died of old age.
God was heartbroken.
Let us hope more elephants and rhinos and dogs will live longer than they do now. From the north, ivory and rhino horn is probably moved to the big towns like Nairobi, where there is a growing number of Chinese. Amongst the Africans, there is an increasing community of Chinese shops and restaurants. There is a big new Chinese hotel and a restaurant with an interesting menu. Dog anyone? And part of the decor, would you believe? From Kenya, perhaps via Mombasa, bits of rhino and elephant will be smuggled to the Far East to satisfy a terrifying greed. Wherever there are rhinos and elephants, there is danger to them. In Kenya, at Old Pejeta, new science is being used. drones, remotely controlled planes that can spy from the sky. Recently, a charity raised more than £35,000 in this area for a drone. The Kenya Wildlife Service has been given 1,000 microchips and 5 scanners for tracking threatened rhinos, and a DNA database has been set up in the UK in an attempt to stop the theft and trade of museum and zoo individuals. All these scientific advances help provide a deterrent at least. But the pressure to commit crimes is still enormous. And this brings huge risks to the rangers, whose job it is to protect rhinos and elephants.
My name is Mohammed Doyle. I used to work in Arpeggiata Conservancy in Kenya. And I used to work with the rhino, especially with the northern white rhino. And the time they arrived here, they arrived 2009 on 20th December. Before they arrived, I used to work with this black and white rhino, and I loved them. Almost about 20 years experience of this animal working with them. And I am happy working with him, and I passion to these animals. And I hope the number of this northern white rhino, they will go up. Pleasure to be working with them.
To help elephants and rhinos, it's essential to involve the local people, who may ultimately derive some income from tourism. A classic case is the Aberdares, where, over 21 years, a fence 400 kilometres long surrounds the entire Aberdares mountain range. The success of the fence rests on the cooperation of the local community, whose crops are not now raided by elephants, and they themselves are safe. Their land values have increased by up to 300%.
The fence was actually started. The first post was actually put in this area. And when this fence passed our area, we found that the conflict between us and the animals was reducing, and it was actually reducing dramatically. Almost 90% of what was happening before the fence, in fact, had actually changed completely. And definitely, we found it was actually very important, therefore, to conserve the forest, to maintain and the fence, because it was now a friendly block between us and the animals. Now, normally, it was not actually meant to keep us away from the forest. It was to keep the animals from coming to us. And that's how we brought about the idea of, backfilling the Nini, which was being destroyed by elephants, large animals like elephants, rhinos, buffaloes.
Rhino Ark is now building similar fences around other mountains in Kenya, helping to protect the very rare mountain bongo antelope. These forests are the water towers of Kenya, supplying much of the country with water through its streams and rivers. Publicity by mass destruction. In January 2014, China crushed 6 tons of ivory of illegally stockpiled material. At the end of 2013, the USA destroyed its stock of seized ivory, as did the Philippines. The global trade is estimated to be worth $10 billion, some of the proceeds of which are believed to fund terrorist groups. Or burn it. The success of this publicity is controversial. Former Kenya President Daniel Arap Moi said it best at the first ivory burning on July the 18th, 1989. To stop the poacher, the trader must be stopped, and to stop the trader, the final buyer must be convinced not to buy ivory. I appeal to people all over the world to stop buying ivory. Some of this is fake, probably a buffalo horn, and this could undermine the business. No customer wants to be cheated, certainly at these prices, and for items that have no medicinal value, whether real or fake. Fines are another force. A new law in Kenya has been enormously strengthened. Tan Yong-jin from China was fined £140,000 or 7 years in jail if he is unable to pay the fine. He had an elephant tusk weighing 3.4 kilograms in his suitcase, and this story went worldwide. Publicity can make a huge difference. In the battle against the use of shark fins for soup as a status symbol in China, killing 100 million sharks a year, a campaign both inside and outside the country has reduced the trade. Could this be achieved for rhinos and elephants? The pressure is on from all over the world.
As a father, I want our children to know that rhinos are not just a picture in a book.
I want our children to be able to swim with sharks, not just eat them in a soup.
我希望我的孩子有机会在野外看到大象。
Please ask your friends and relatives to never buy rhino horn, ivory or shark fin.
没有买卖，
就没有杀害。
这是犀牛桑迪。这头白犀牛很不简单，它曾惨遭偷猎者的毒手。偷猎者用麻醉枪将它击倒，然后用斧子连脚带脸都砍了下来，就是为了获得它的脚。尽管桑蒂经历痛苦和多次手术，但他活了下来。为了帮助更多的犀牛生存下来，结束残忍的犀角交易，请不要购买犀角制品，因为没有买卖就没有杀害。
Appeals by individuals and organisations from around the world will focus in London in February 2014 with a major conference. An appeal by the independent newspaper raised nearly £500,000, and the owner, seen here with his friends the Samburu, now with no dogs, will draw specific attention to the Chinese connection. The future depends on the understanding that ivory comes from elephants killed only for that reason, and whose tusks don't grow again like fingernails, and whose medicinal value is similar, that is, nil. If that major conference in London in February does not persuade the Chinese and the Vietnamese, then it could turn out to be true that these remarkable animals will become historical creatures in the same category as the dodo, as effigies. This is a frightening sequence of events. Imagine this: a group of very large, very hungry animals is coming towards you, your home and your livelihood. Your only livelihood to feed your Kenya family, one that's probably increasing as it tends to, if only to keep you into your old age. The elephants may also be increasing, certainly their hunger is, and people have invaded their home.
Now counting losses are running into millions of shillings. The Laikipia County Governor Joseph Irongo said a project to experience invasion of farms by wild animals that have killed or injured people.
The maize crop, so carefully nurtured, is vulnerable. Overnight it's gone. Your food is gone. Nothing for the future and your family. And if the rains fail, people and cattle starve. And so do the elephants that have moved on and wiped out more vital crops because they have to. They can hardly be blamed. Then some other people arrive at the wreckage. They ask, "Do you like elephants, like tourists do?" Answer, of course, hapana, hapana, no, no.
Aja kulima nyanya, aja kulima kitunguu, mimi nalima mahindi tu. Na hiyo mahindi kwa mwingine, sisi na ndovu na namekalia yule mwingine. Alafu amuondoke. Kama ni sisi, serikali kuja.
The men say, "Well, we can get rid of them for you and even pay you a few shillings." There are, of course, poachers. So who's to blame? Not the elephants, not the poor farmers who now may not be able to feed their families. And the poachers? Well, it's a tricky one. And could starving and thirsty elephants, due to climate change, be pushing people out as the human immigration moves north towards Europe from Africa? Because they're not easy to live with.
Rising cases of invasion of their crops by elephants. Elephants invaded their crops yet again. The farmers are now counting losses and running into millions of shillings. The Laikipia County Governor Joseph Irongo said a project to erect